Hello today. I recently discovered that you can almost do anything that you want on YouTube, so that's why I'm here today. I started YouTube to be able to talk to people about sustainability and living a zero waste lifestyle. And this video is going to be all about what's wrong with the zero waste movement. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you exactly what I need to show you in order to prove to you what's actually wrong and how we can go about to fix it. So first I'm going to show you my neighborhood, but stay with me and then you'll see where I'm going with this. Here it is. Now I'm going to show you a neighborhood about 20 minutes from my home. They look different, don't they? Yes, they do. And they're also a lot different in more than just how they appear. Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome to my channel, Gabriella Vanema, where we talk about all the ways in which we can save the world with tiny steps at a time. Let's talk about one of the hardships while maintaining a zero waste lifestyle, and that directly relates to our poverty problem. See, if people are hungry and if they're barely making enough to make ends meet in general, then their first priority is definitely not going to be about purchasing package-free food. It's going to be about purchasing what their family needs, and the cheapest way to do that with the money they do have. See, the number of very high poverty neighborhoods have increased dramatically since the year 2000, especially in small to medium metropolitan areas. And I know there are a lot of movements directly related to racial inequality in the Black Lives Matter movement right now, and those are extremely important, and this also directly relates to our poverty problem. See, in African American neighborhoods, their poverty rate is at 23%, while white neighborhoods only have 13%. See, I'm not saying that this is just a race issue, because it clearly isn't, because everyone has a chance to experience some sort of poverty, but people of color are more likely to experience and live in neighborhoods with a higher poverty rate. And I think that's what part of the Black Lives Matter movement speaks for even people of color to have more access to better things, better neighborhoods, better stores, accessibility, and that's what this video is going to be about. Accessibility to better quality things. And that directly relates to the zero waste movement. See, the zero waste movement is all about sustainability and being zero waste and making less waste as possible. And that doesn't apply to just one race. See, the point of this movement is to get everyone involved, as many people as we possibly can, in order to create less waste. And when each person starts creating less waste is when we can truly make an impact on the entire world. So we need everyone involved. If we are to succeed in this movement, then we need everyone to be a part of it. And that means we also need to be inclusive and inviting. There are a lot of things that are wrong with the system, including policies, practices, and exclusionary zoning. I'm just gonna put that word in the text right there since I can't pronounce it, but just these topics alone would be impossible to fit in just a 15-minute YouTube video, so I will probably do more parts to this video to be able to show what's going on right now and what we can do to help our future. But in this video, I'm going to mainly talk about how it affects living a low-waste lifestyle. Let's start off with what many people rely on when living in poorer metropolitan areas. It's public transportation. And I actually did that when I was in Washington, D.C. for an internship. Yeah, and I was eating nothing but ramen then, so good times. Public transportation and ramen. But the public transportation system wasn't that bad there. But here in Columbus, Ohio, it's not as accessible as it was in Washington, D.C. So it's a lot harder to not have a car in Columbus, Ohio. And it's a real privilege to be able to have a car. A lot of people cannot afford this because it does come with a lot of cost. A monthly cost if you're buying a new car. If you are buying a secondhand car, sometimes you have to pay it up front. It all depends on what you're looking for and what you have to worry about. There are a lot of pros and cons to both of these things. But a lot of people can only afford one car. Me and my husband only have one car right now because we choose to save money instead of paying for 2 cars because it's just not worth it. We could definitely not afford to pay for 2 insurances right now, 2 car payments, maintenance on each car. That would just be way too much, and it's definitely not worth it. So being limited on public transportation also makes you limited on accessibility to farmers markets, community gardens, and other stores like that. And if you are able to afford a car, then a shopping trip to these areas might take you 20 to 30 minutes just to get there one way. And it's not really that bad if you're making bulk shopping trips, so you only have to go for big things, probably twice a month maybe, and you go for your weekly things, maybe just one day a week instead of multiple times a week. That's not that bad. But if you are not lucky enough to be able to afford a car, then you have to take public transportation, which may take an hour bus ride, and you also have to carry your groceries all the way home. So buying a 50-pound bag of rice because it's cheaper might not be a good idea if you have an hour bus ride home and then a half-mile walk after you reach the bus stop. And people that are already taking the bus every day already have to take a long bus ride to work. So taking the bus twice a day to and from work, maybe even picking up your kids on the way home, and then walking home and all that, and you expect people to take an hour bus ride just to be able to have accessibility to fresh groceries, that's not okay. People that live in the metropolitan areas shouldn't be expected to take an hour bus ride to be able to buy package-free vegetables and fruit. And when you are limited on lots of things like transportation and you're on a budget, your first priority is going to be taking care of your family. And if your choice is between taking an hour bus ride to a farmer's market or spending a half hour helping your kids with their homework, or in a half hour that's preparing for dinner, and you get to spend an extra 15 minutes with your kids just relaxing and spending time with them before bed, then if that's your choice, then I definitely don't blame you, because that is what's important to you, and if you put that as your priority, then that's what you should definitely do. When people have accessibility to these things, they are in a healthy lifestyle, then they are more likely to spend their extra time learning about things that might coordinate to saving the planet, like recycling or composting. There are many things that I don't even know about yet that I could be doing in order to save the planet more, and I'm still learning. But I am also privileged and I have the time to be able to learn. Some people aren't so privileged. In walking distance from my house, I have a couple corner stores, and down the street I have an Aldi's, Save-A-Lot, Dollar Tree, or Family Dollar General, I don't know, it's something like that. A couple like random stores down the street, and some of them might be a decent walk, and some of them you may also have to take the bus for. You might also be able to take the bus to a Kroger or Walmart that's about a 10-minute drive from my house. But just like I said before, if you are buying groceries from those places, that might not be generally the best place to buy package-free food from or low-waste food from. You still have to carry that all the way home too. So halfway decent store that you might be able to find fresh groceries at, and you also have to take it all the way home. So you're paying for a bus ride just to go grocery shopping, and you have to carry it all the way home, walk home after the bus stop, and if you're taking care of 2 kids, then you have to do that while grocery shopping that intensely. But if you're curious, just take a look at one of my previous videos that I recently made about grocery shopping. And the grocery shopping video talks about my favorite bulk store, which is Lucky's, which is about 20 minutes from my house, and I'm going to show you guys what package-free stuff you can find there and how easy it is to have access to. go into the oldies, Family, Dollar General, Save a Lot, you can see the difference and how hard it is to find accessibility to package-free foods in stores like that. Don't get me wrong, you might be able to find some things that are lower waste, but it is limited and the resources you may find are limited. Aside from sustainable food being harder to find, it's a lot of other things too. Zero waste alternatives are harder to find in general because it's not mainstream yet, and a lot of resources are available online, but then you also have to take in consideration are they carbon neutral shipping, and even those resources are sometimes limited to what you have access to. And it might also take a lot of time of researching and things like that, which is what I do for my YouTube channel, which takes as much time as a part-time job. Products can also be on the pricier side. I know I have saved a lot of money since adapting to my zero waste or low waste lifestyle, but I have also had the privilege of saving up money every week. Even though it may not be a lot of money every week, I have still been able to save $10 every week in order to buy things that I need. For example, I kept using my old razors that were disposable and weren't very good. They were cheaply made and didn't last me very long and didn't work as well as the safety razor that I just purchased off of Earth Hero. It only cost $30, but it still took me 3 weeks to purchase because I saved up for it over time. I did the same thing with my menstrual cup that I recently purchased as well from Earth Hero. But some people do not have that luxury of saving $10 a week. I know our lives can be stressful and busy, but there are also people out there with less than us. So this is one of the reasons why it's best to stay considerate and understanding. We are not living in someone else's shoes. We can only imagine what they're going through. I've also thought about making content specifically about how to budget and tips about budgeting, so if you're interested in that, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know. I've had to live on very little money before, so if that's something that you'd be interested in hearing about, let me know. A lot of brands are just getting started too because the zero waste movement is still a newish thing, and a lot of brands aren't that inclusive yet either. For example, zero waste makeup is usually pretty pricey and they can be limited on their skin tones. So if you're a person of color, it might be harder to have access to zero waste makeup at all. So it's important to support zero waste brands that are being zero waste, sustainable, ethical, and inclusive, because we want everyone to feel welcome into the zero waste movement. Don't get me wrong, if you use your makeup less often like I have, like I don't wear my makeup at all to work anymore, I only wear it sometimes, probably like once or twice a week now, then you do save money in the long term, in like speaking of long term, but it does have that upfront pricey cost still. I'm also going to make and DIY some of my own foundation, blush, maybe I'll try a couple other things too, but I am lucky enough and I can take advantage of the extra time I do have in order to DIY and make these products. If I were a single parent working 2 jobs with a couple of kids and a lot of other things to maintain, then my first worry probably wouldn't be about DIYing some foundation and mascara. But if you're interested in this, I will make sure to link some brands that I think are doing well in the description box below. I recently learned about a couple new brands when I watched Janu's video. I think that's how you say her name. She is a YouTuber that I just discovered that's also big on the zero waste, things like that. So you should definitely check her videos out too. I discovered her from one of Levi Hildebrand's latest videos. He's one of the best YouTubers out there, so definitely check him out too. I'll link both of them in the description below as well. But the point of this video wasn't to say that people living in these neighborhoods cannot live a zero waste or low waste lifestyle that they are striving for. It was mainly to show focus on people that live in areas with higher poverty rates usually have it harder, and they have to try harder in order to do the things that I love talking about on YouTube. So hearing how people have less accessibility to these things just breaks my heart. It should not be this way. It should not be this way in general for anybody, but usually people of color and people that are living in neighborhoods with higher poverty rates have to try extremely harder in order to live the lifestyle that I do. I know communities and government and all those people, we can start talking to them and reaching out and sending letters and asking for things to change, to become more accessible. If you have a favorite like library that you go to and you know that they have some space behind their building, you could ask if they'd be interested in starting a community garden for people to have access to fresh grown like vegetables and fruit. If your work doesn't recycle, maybe you could bring it up to your boss and be like, hey, like we have all this paper that goes to waste. Why can't we start recycling? Or if you work at a school, maybe you could talk about your food waste and talk about starting a compost. Then you could even implement that in your lesson plans to talk about food waste and how we should be careful and be considerate when consuming food. You can always make a difference. We just have to be conscious of what we're doing, be creative, and maybe even reach out to people, get social about it, just talk about what you're striving for, and then you can do it. No matter where you're from, you can always make a small difference. And no matter how big of a difference you are able to make, even the smallest of differences add up to something big. So just remember that and stay motivated about it, because that will keep you going. And we need consistency. We do not need to strive for perfection. We just need more people to keep trying. So don't be so hard on yourself, because that's not what we want. We, as a zero waste community, I hope strive to encourage each other the most. We shouldn't judge each person for what they can or cannot do, for how much money they're willing to spend, for having plastic in their home. I have a ton of plastic still in my home, and that's because I'm trying to reuse as much of it as I can. But no matter what the case, we do not judge people for what they're doing, and we can always try to implement more people and get more people involved in this movement, and that is the goal. So I think that's all that I'm going to touch on for today in this video. If you're interested in more ways to be more sustainable and saving the planet, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and hit that little notification button that will notify you every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye.